Before you took your first breath, before your heart began to beat, a choice was made. We often believe life begins at birth, but what if the moment you arrived was not the start of your story, only the continuation of one your soul had already written? Have you ever felt a quiet whisper within, pulling you towards something greater? Have you sensed patterns in your life, people you meet, challenges you face, dreams that keep returning, as though existence itself was guiding you somewhere? These are not coincidences, they are signs. Your soul chose a purpose before you were born, and today we will uncover the subtle fingerprints of that choice, the signs woven into your life, pointing you toward the path you are meant to walk. There comes a moment in nearly every human life when an invisible weight presses upon the heart, and a subtle tension begins to stir beneath the surface of ordinary existence. You go about your days, fulfilling duties, keeping promises, paying bills, maintaining relationships, yet somewhere deep within, a quiet unrest grows louder. It is not the ordinary dissatisfaction born of temporary circumstances. It is something far more ancient, far more profound. It is the whisper of the soul reminding you that the life you see is only a fraction of the life you were meant to live. This restlessness is not an enemy to be silenced, but an inner guide, a force that seeks to draw you toward the hidden meaning of your existence. Yet so many treat it as a burden, trying to drown it beneath the noise of the world. We call it midlife crisis, boredom, or anxiety. We distract ourselves with endless tasks, consumption, or fleeting pleasures, hoping to numb its call. But the truth is, this feeling is neither accidental nor meaningless. It is the faint memory of an agreement made before you were born, the promise your soul made to itself to fulfill a purpose uniquely your own. Consider for a moment the stories of those who transformed the trajectory of their lives, not by logic or external validation, but by surrendering to that persistent, unsettling pull within them. J.K. Rowling's life is a testament to this. At one point, she was a single mother living on welfare, uncertain about her future and crushed beneath the weight of circumstance. The rational mind would have dictated a simple, linear path: find stability, secure income, survive. And yet there was something within her, a voice, a vision that refused to let go. She would sit in cafes with her infant daughter sleeping beside her, pouring out onto paper the magical world of Harry Potter. It made no sense at the time. There was no guarantee of success, no safety net, no applause waiting in the wings, and yet she obeyed the inner calling. Today, millions of people, young and old alike, have been touched by her words. Her restlessness was not a curse, it was an invitation. This is the paradox. The soul often guides us through discomfort. That gnawing sensation you feel when your life seems fine on the surface, but hollow within, is the soul's way of waking you up. It nudges you when you have settled for less than you are capable of becoming. It whispers when you have drifted too far from the path you were meant to walk. And when whispers fail, it sometimes roars, shaking the foundation of your life through crisis, heartbreak, or loss, not as punishment, but as a way to push you toward transformation. Think about your own life. Have there been moments when something inside you told you, this is not all there is? Perhaps you've stood at your desk at work, staring at your computer, wondering why you feel like a stranger inhabiting your own life. Or maybe you've lain awake at night, questioning the choices you've made, sensing that your soul longs for something your rational mind has yet to name. That discomfort, though frightening, is sacred. It means your deeper self is trying to awaken. The restlessness is, in many ways, the clash between the life the world has taught you to live and the life your soul remembers you came here for. Society hands us a script: study hard, get a job, build stability, accumulate possessions, retire, and wait for meaning to descend upon you in the twilight years. But the soul does not obey these timelines. It yearns for expression, growth, and creation. When your daily existence fails to reflect the blueprint of your inner being, unease inevitably follows. In psychology, we often speak of individuation, the process by which one becomes the fullest version of oneself. This is not achieved by conforming to expectations or silencing inner desires. It is born through a dialogue with the unconscious, where the deeper self resides. That inner restlessness is often the first signal from the unconscious, inviting you to step into the unknown, to transcend the persona, the mask you wear for the world, and move toward authenticity. But the path is not without risk. To listen to the whisper of the soul requires courage, because it often asks us to dismantle the life we've built. It might mean leaving behind relationships, careers, identities, or roles that no longer serve who we are becoming. And yet, those who dare to follow this calling often discover that the life they thought they would lose was never truly theirs to begin with. History is filled with individuals who surrendered to their inner pull despite uncertainty. Vincent van Gogh created over 2,000 pieces of art while living in poverty and obscurity. In his lifetime, he sold only one painting. By the world's standards, he was a failure. But Van Gogh was not painting for applause or wealth. He painted because he could not ignore the fire within him. Today, his art touches millions, transcending time and culture. His restlessness, too, was an invitation, and he answered it, even if the rewards came long after he was gone. And yet, you need not be a Rowling or a Van Gogh to experience this same truth. Your calling may not be to write books or paint masterpieces. It may be to raise a child with love, to heal others with compassion, to build something that outlives you, or simply to live in a way that aligns with your deepest values. Purpose is not measured by scale, but by authenticity. If you are willing to be honest with yourself, you might begin to notice the subtle ways life has been nudging you, a persistent dream you keep ignoring, a career you've outgrown but are afraid to leave, a creative passion buried beneath practicality, a longing for a different way of living, one that terrifies you because it would dismantle the familiar. These are not random, they are signals, and here lies the great irony. Many of us spend our lives running from this inner tension, doing everything we can to maintain control and avoid discomfort. Yet, the moment we stop resisting and lean into the restlessness, life begins to open in ways we could not have imagined. Opportunities arise, synchronicities appear, people and events converge as if orchestrated by an unseen hand. It is as though the universe conspires in your favor once you align with the path your soul chose long before birth. But first, you must dare to listen. That requires quiet. In a world overflowing with noise, distraction, and endless comparison, the voice of the soul is easily drowned out. To hear it, you must create space through solitude, reflection, and honest self-inquiry. Ask yourself, what do I most long for, even if it frightens me? Sit with the discomfort of that question. Often, the answers emerge not as grand revelations, but as subtle intuitions, gentle pulls, sudden clarity. The restlessness will not go away until you honor it. You can numb it temporarily, but it will return again and again, because it is not a flaw to be fixed, it is guidance to be followed. It is your soul reminding you of the life you promised yourself before you were born. So when you feel it, that quiet ache, that longing you cannot explain, do not turn away. Do not bury it beneath busyness or dismiss it as foolishness. Lean into it, follow it where it leads. It may take you into unknown territory, but it will also lead you closer to who you truly are. There is a deeper intelligence within you, older than your mind, wiser than your fears. Trust it, because that restlessness that refuses to be silenced is not here to torment you, it is here to guide you home. There is a mysterious rhythm to life, one that operates beneath the surface of our conscious awareness. We move through our days believing in chance and coincidence, assuming that events are isolated and disconnected. Yet, when we look closely, a strange order begins to reveal itself. Certain challenges return again and again. Similar relationships seem to play out with different faces. We encounter the same struggles dressed in new forms. To the rational mind, this may appear as misfortune or bad luck, but at a deeper level, these repetitions are not random at all. They are the signs and symbols of a hidden curriculum, one your soul may have chosen long before you entered this world. Imagine your life as a vast tapestry. Each thread represents a choice, an encounter, a moment of growth or resistance. From where you stand now, you may see only fragments, tangled lines, loose knots, patterns that seem chaotic. But from the vantage point of the soul, there is symmetry, purpose, and design. The recurring themes you experience are not accidents. They are deliberate invitations, urging you toward a deeper understanding of yourself. Have you ever noticed how life has a way of circling back on itself? Perhaps you have found yourself trapped in the same type of toxic relationship over and over again, even when the people involved are entirely different. Or maybe financial struggle has been a constant companion, appearing no matter how hard you work or how carefully you plan. For some, the theme might be abandonment, betrayal, rejection, or failure. These patterns are not punishments handed down by some indifferent universe. They are mirrors, reflecting back to you the lessons your soul longs to master. There is a saying, life will keep sending you the same lesson until you learn it. It sounds simple, yet few truly grasp its depth. What if the very situations you resist the most are the ones designed to unlock your growth? What if the chaos you try to escape holds the key to your liberation? Consider the person born into financial struggle, where scarcity seems to follow them like a shadow. They may spend their entire life believing they are unlucky or cursed, constantly striving to escape the grip of limitation. Yet, what if their soul chose this path to learn the true meaning of abundance, not as the accumulation of wealth, but as an unshakable trust in life's capacity to provide? Some eventually break the cycle, not by earning more, but by transforming their relationship with fear, control, and self-worth. The moment they realize abundance begins within, the external circumstances begin to shift as if by magic. For another, the pattern might be betrayal. Perhaps they attract relationships that repeatedly fracture their trust. To the conscious mind, this feels cruel and unjust, but at a deeper level, these experiences may be guiding them toward self-sovereignty, teaching them to set boundaries, to listen to intuition, and to trust themselves above all else. When they finally embody these lessons, the pattern dissolves, and they no longer attract situations that wound them in the same way. The key is awareness. Without it, we become trapped in cycles, playing the same roles in different scenes, convinced we are victims of fate. But awareness transforms repetition into revelation. When we pause and ask, "What is this trying to teach me?" we step into the role of an active participant in our own evolution. Life ceases to be something happening to us and becomes something happening through us for our growth, our awakening. I have seen this unfold countless times, both in personal journeys and in the stories of others. There was a woman I once knew who constantly found herself in relationships where she felt unseen and undervalued, different partners, different circumstances, yet always the same ache, the same invisible wound resurfacing. For years she blamed others, believing she had simply been unlucky in love. But when she finally turned inward, when she dared to face the part of herself that believed she was unworthy of being cherished, everything changed. The moment she began to honor herself, she stopped attracting those who could not. The pattern ended, not because the world became different, but because she became different. This is the paradox of recurring patterns. They persist until you transform, not because life wants to punish you, but because your soul longs for wholeness. These cycles are the way the unconscious speaks to us. We are drawn to the very situations that awaken buried wounds, not to suffer endlessly, but to bring what is hidden into the light of awareness. Until we confront what we have suppressed, the fears, the false beliefs, the old stories, we will keep reliving them in one form or another. Even synchronicity plays a role here. The people and circumstances that appear in your life are rarely accidents. They are mirrors, reflecting parts of yourself you may not yet see. A controlling boss may mirror your fear of authority. A friend's betrayal may expose your reluctance to trust your instincts. A recurring failure may force you to confront your deepest doubts about your own worth. When you begin to view life symbolically, each recurring event becomes a messenger rather than a tormentor. The process is not always easy. Patterns often return with increasing intensity when we resist them, as though life turns up the volume each time we try to silence the lesson. You might notice the stakes getting higher, the emotions deeper, the consequences greater. This is not cruelty, it is insistence. The soul is persistent because its purpose is transformation. It will not rest until you have integrated the wisdom your life has been trying to teach you. And yet, there is profound beauty in this design. Once you begin to recognize the patterns, once you lean into their meaning rather than resist their discomfort, you step into an entirely new way of living. Instead of asking, "Why is this happening to me again?" you begin to ask, "What am I being shown?" That single shift in perception carries immense power. Suddenly, challenges become teachers, pain becomes a guide, and life itself becomes a dialogue between your conscious mind and your deeper self. Take a moment now and reflect on your own life. What has returned to you again and again, demanding your attention? Perhaps it is a recurring conflict with someone close to you, a habit you cannot seem to break, or a dream you keep abandoning only to rediscover later. The patterns are already there, whispering their truth through repetition. To notice them is the first step toward liberation. We are not here to drift aimlessly, nor are we trapped by fate. The repeating cycles of our lives are the language of the soul, an invitation to evolve beyond our limitations. When we finally understand their meaning, when we integrate the lessons they carry, the patterns dissolve like shadows before the rising sun. You are not cursed. You are being guided. The universe is not conspiring against you. It is conspiring for your growth. The signs are everywhere, hidden in plain sight, waiting for you to awaken to them. Life repeats its lessons not to torment you but to free you, and when you finally learn what you came here to learn, you will realize that nothing was ever random. It was all preparation for becoming who you were always meant to be. There is a strange and often unsettling truth about the nature of human existence. The places where we are most deeply wounded are often the very places where life plants the seeds of our highest calling. This is not something the rational mind easily accepts. Pain feels chaotic, unfair, and meaningless when we are inside it. It is the moment when the ground is ripped away, when innocence shatters, when we are stripped of everything we thought we knew about ourselves and the world. And yet, again and again, we find that those who have walked through the deepest valleys carry within them a light that could not have been born any other way. Think about your own life for a moment. Recall the moments that broke you, the experiences you wished had never happened, the memories you still carry in silence. It may be betrayal, abandonment, loss, illness, rejection, or shame. Each person's wounds are uniquely their own. At the time, they felt like curses, like doors slammed shut on who you thought you were supposed to be. And yet, there is a profound mystery here. These wounds, if faced with courage, can become gateways. They invite us into a deeper relationship with ourselves, with life, and with the soul's purpose. Pain is rarely meaningless, though it disguises itself as chaos. Beneath the suffering lies an initiation. The soul often chooses struggles not to punish us, but to prepare us to carve out spaces within us where compassion, strength, and wisdom can be born. The ancient alchemists understood this when they sought to transform base metals into gold. What they were truly describing was the transformation of the human spirit, the capacity to take the raw material of suffering and transmute it into something radiant, powerful, and life-giving. Oprah Winfrey's life is a striking example. As a child, she endured trauma, poverty, and unimaginable hardship. For years, her pain must have seemed meaningless, random, and cruel. Yet, rather than allowing her wounds to define her as broken, she chose to meet them head-on. She transformed her deepest scars into a platform of healing for millions. Her ability to sit with another person's pain, to listen without judgment, to open space for transformation, all of it was born from what she endured. Without her suffering, she might never have discovered her gift. Through her, we see that the wound is not the end of the story. It is the very place where the story begins to matter. But this path is not simple, nor is it easy. To face our wounds requires courage, because most of us spend our lives doing the opposite. We run from pain, bury it beneath distraction, numb it with achievement, or lock it behind walls of anger and denial. We tell ourselves that if we avoid it long enough, it will disappear, yet the opposite is true. Unmet wounds do not vanish, they grow roots. They shape our choices, distort our perceptions, and bind us to cycles of suffering until we dare to turn and face them. Imagine a person who has been abandoned early in life. If that wound remains unhealed, they may spend years seeking validation from others, entering relationships that replay the same heartbreak again and again. But the moment they pause and ask, "What is life trying to teach me here?" the transformation begins. Slowly, they realize that their worth was never dependent on another's love. The wound that once haunted them becomes a source of strength, teaching them self, trust, and sovereignty. What once brought them to their knees now becomes the foundation of their power. This is the paradox we must embrace. The pain we resist most fiercely is often the birthplace of our purpose. The suffering you endured gives you an intimacy with certain truths that others cannot access. The person who has known profound loss becomes the one who can sit tenderly with another's grief. The person who has struggled through shame and rejection becomes a beacon for those seeking acceptance. The one who has faced illness discovers resilience and teaches others to cherish life. I have seen this countless times. A man once told me the story of his greatest wound, the sudden loss of his young son. For years he carried a grief so deep it hollowed him out. He withdrew from life, drowning in meaninglessness. But one day he chose to face his pain instead of running from it. He began to volunteer at a hospice center, sitting with families as they faced their own goodbyes. In bearing witness to the suffering of others, he found a way to honor his son's memory. His wound became his bridge to humanity. It gave him the capacity to hold others in their darkest hours, not with words or solutions, but with presence, born from having walked that terrain himself. And perhaps this is the hidden purpose of wounds. They break us open to life. When everything familiar collapses, when the persona, the mask we wear for the world, can no longer hold, we are forced into deeper territory. We meet parts of ourselves we didn't know existed. We are humbled, stripped of illusions, and yet in that rawness we become more real, more whole, more capable of seeing life as it truly is. This is not to romanticize suffering. Pain is not something we should seek, nor is every wound easily transformed. But when suffering comes, as it inevitably does for all of us, we are offered a choice. We can harden, close off, and allow the wound to define us, or we can turn toward it with curiosity and ask, what is this here to teach me? What strength is waiting to be born through this? When we choose the latter, something extraordinary happens. Our personal pain begins to weave itself into a larger narrative, one that connects us to others. The very thing we thought isolated us becomes the thing that binds us. Your story, your scars, your survival, these become a bridge for others walking similar paths. In sharing your journey, you give permission for others to face their own wounds with courage. In healing yourself, you light a torch for those still wandering in darkness. Carl Jung once observed that the place of our deepest wound is often where we find the treasure hard to attain. He understood that our suffering pushes us into dialogue with the unconscious, forcing us to confront what lies hidden beneath the surface. The integration of these rejected, painful parts of ourselves is what makes us whole. When we avoid our wounds, we remain fragmented, trapped in patterns of repetition and fear. When we embrace them, we reclaim pieces of ourselves we thought were lost forever. Your wounds are not proof of your weakness. They are the evidence of your becoming. They mark the places where life has demanded that you grow, stretch, and transform. They are the cracks through which your purpose enters, often in ways you could never predict. The most profound callings rarely arrive through comfort. They emerge from the ashes of what you thought you were, urging you toward who you are meant to become. So, if you have suffered greatly, do not dismiss the meaning hidden within your pain. Ask yourself, what strength has this given me? What gift has been forged in this fire? How can my story become a bridge for others? In the asking, you begin to transmute suffering into wisdom. You stop seeing yourself as a victim of life and start recognizing yourself as a co-creator, shaping meaning from chaos. Pain is rarely the end of the story. More often, it is the doorway through which purpose enters. And when you walk through it, you emerge carrying not only your own healing, but the capacity to heal others simply by existing fully, authentically, and unafraid of your scars. Your wounds are not your downfall. They are the soil from which your greatest contribution grows. There is within each of us a quiet summons, a voice so subtle that it is often drowned beneath the noise of daily life, yet so persistent that it refuses to vanish. It is not a demand, nor does it shout. Rather, it calls in whispers, returning again and again, even when ignored. You may try to reason with it, suppress it, bury it beneath duty and practicality, but it waits patiently, like an unextinguished ember smoldering beneath the ash. This is the calling of the soul, the dream, passion, or vision that refuses to let you go because it belongs to the deepest truth of who you are. From the moment we are born, the world begins to teach us its rules. Be responsible, be realistic, follow the path laid before you. We inherit expectations from family, culture, society, and somewhere along the way, many of us learn to silence the wild, unrestrained parts of ourselves that long for something greater. We trade our passions for security, our curiosity for stability, our creativity for survival. And yet, no matter how carefully we build the walls around our lives, the call finds its way through the cracks. It might come as a dream you can't shake, an image that returns again and again, or a restlessness you can't explain. This calling rarely makes sense to the rational mind. It often defies logic and clashes with the expectations imposed upon you. That is why so many ignore it, choosing the safety of conformity over the risk of following an inner voice that offers no guarantees. And yet, for those who do not answer, there is a cost. Something within begins to wither. You may achieve all the markers of success, yet feel an emptiness you cannot name. The soul will not be silenced forever. Consider Vincent van Gogh, who lived in poverty, battled mental illness, and endured relentless criticism, yet continued to paint with an obsessive devotion that seemed almost irrational. In his lifetime, he sold only one painting. By the world's standards, he failed, and yet he kept going because he wasn't painting for recognition or wealth. He was answering something far greater, the insistence of his own soul to create, to give form to visions that burned within him. Today, his art moves millions, transcending time, culture, and mortality. His life reminds us that purpose is rarely measured by applause. It is measured by the authenticity with which we answer what calls us, even when no one else understands. There is something deeply archetypal about this persistent inner summons. It is not simply about career or achievement. It is the soul seeking to express its essence through you. For some, it takes the form of a creative passion to write, to paint, to build, to make beauty where there was none before. For others, it manifests as a longing to teach, to heal, to guide, or to nurture. And for many, it is the desire to live in harmony with a deeper truth, to wander, to explore, to love fiercely, to awaken to the fullness of life itself. The challenge is that this calling often comes into conflict with the life you've been conditioned to live. You may have obligations, responsibilities, and fears that seem insurmountable. You may doubt your abilities, fearing failure or rejection. You may ask yourself, who am I to dream of such things? Yet perhaps the better question is, who am I not to? The persistence of the calling is itself the sign that it matters. If it were meaningless, it would have faded long ago. And yet, it returns in quiet moments, in the things that inspire you, in the longing that stirs when you witness someone else living fully. It tugs at you gently, and if you ignore it, it grows louder over time. Some people spend decades running from this voice, only to find it waiting for them still, unchanged, undiminished. It has patience because it belongs to the deepest part of you. Following this inner call does not always require dramatic upheaval. It is not always about quitting your job, abandoning your responsibilities, or leaving everything behind. Sometimes it begins in small acts of courage, carving out an hour each day to write the book you've carried within you, signing up for the class you've always wanted to take, having the conversation you've been avoiding, daring to imagine a life beyond the one you've settled for. Each small step toward your calling has power because it signals to life itself that you are willing to participate in your becoming. And something remarkable happens when you take those steps. Doors begin to open where before there were only walls. People appear at the right time. Opportunities arise seemingly out of nowhere. Synchronicities align in ways too precise to be dismissed as chance. It is as though the moment you decide to honor the summons of your soul, life conspires with you, revealing paths that had been hidden all along. But make no mistake, answering this call will require you to confront fear. The path of purpose is rarely without resistance. The old self clings to the familiar, terrified of the unknown. You may face doubt, rejection, even ridicule from those who do not understand. Yet, this too is part of the journey. Every calling demands a certain death, the shedding of old identities, outdated beliefs, and inherited narratives that no longer serve who you are becoming. In many ways, this process mirrors the ancient myths of initiation. The hero receives a call to adventure, but the road ahead is fraught with obstacles, trials, and inner battles. Along the way, the hero is transformed, discovering gifts they never knew they possessed. The calling is never just about what you do. It is about who you become in the process of answering it. Think of those moments in your own life when something within you felt alive, truly alive. Perhaps it was when you were creating, helping, exploring, or learning. These moments are not random. They are glimpses of alignment, moments when the deeper self briefly steps forward. The invitation is to follow those sparks, to trust that they are leading you towards something essential. The tragedy is not in failing to fulfill your calling perfectly. Perfection is an illusion, but in never trying at all. To deny the voice within is to deny a part of yourself, and over time, this denial carries its own form of suffering. The unexpressed dream becomes a weight, the ignored passion becomes regret, the silenced truth becomes illness of the spirit, and yet it is never too late. No matter how much time has passed, no matter how many detours you've taken, the call remains. It waits patiently, as though knowing that sooner or later you will turn toward it. The dream does not judge you for abandoning it, it simply asks, are you ready now? When you finally answer, even in small ways, you begin to discover that your calling was never separate from who you are. It has been woven into you from the beginning, like a hidden melody waiting to be sung. The longing you feel is not for something outside of you, but for the fullest expression of yourself. If there is something you cannot stop thinking about, something that returns to you in quiet moments no matter how unreasonable it seems, trust that it is not random. That persistent vision is your soul knocking at the door, asking you to remember why you came here. And perhaps this is the ultimate truth. Your purpose is not something you find, it is something you allow. It has been within you all along, waiting for you to listen, to trust, to choose. No one else can answer it for you. No one else can walk the path that only you were born to walk. The call never goes away because it is not separate from you. It is you. It is the essence of your being, inviting you into the life you were always meant to live. And when you finally step toward it, even trembling, even unsure, you discover that everything you've been seeking has been seeking you too. There are moments in life when something stirs beneath the ordinary, when the veil between chance and meaning feels thin, and we sense that unseen forces are weaving threads we cannot yet comprehend. These are the moments when synchronicity enters those mysterious alignments and uncanny coincidences that arrive with such precision, such impossible timing, that to dismiss them as mere accidents feels inadequate. You think of someone you haven't spoken to in years, and within hours they call. You stumble upon a book whose words speak directly to the questions you've been wrestling with in silence. You meet a stranger who offers exactly the opportunity you had almost given up hope of finding. To the rational mind, these moments seem inexplicable. They do not obey the logic of probability or cause and effect, and yet something deep within us recognizes their significance. It is as though life itself has spoken in a language beyond words, nudging us gently, reminding us that we are not wandering blindly, but are being guided. Carl Jung called these meaningful coincidences, and though the name carries simplicity, the experience of them feels profound, almost sacred. They arrive like whispers from the soul's hidden blueprint, guiding us back to the path we chose long before we entered this world. Synchronicities often appear when we begin to move closer to our true purpose, as if existence conspires to support the unfolding of who we are meant to become. This is not magic in the sense of manipulating reality, but rather alignment, the moment when our inner world harmonizes with the greater rhythms of life. When you dare to follow your calling, when you take even a small step toward the truth of your being, The external world seems to respond in kind. Doors open where before there were walls. People cross your path precisely when you need them. Information arrives at the perfect moment. It is as though the universe whispers, "Yes, this way." I have heard countless stories of this, and perhaps you have lived them too. A woman once told me she had dreamed for years of becoming a writer, but had always doubted herself, burying her passion beneath the responsibilities of work and family. One day, after deciding quietly to take a single step to attend a local writing class, she sat on a park bench contemplating her fear. A stranger sat down beside her, opened a notebook, and began to write. After a moment, he turned and said, almost casually, "You know, it's never too late to start." It was a fleeting encounter, yet it struck her with such force that she wept. That same week, she stumbled upon an old copy of a book on writing tucked away in a thrift store, the exact book she had once seen years earlier and forgotten. These were not accidents. They were signposts guiding her forward. Synchronicities do not always arrive with grandeur. Often they come quietly, hidden in ordinary details, yet they carry a feeling, a deep, undeniable sense of rightness. It is not the event itself, but the way it resonates within you, as though something in your unconscious recognizes a truth your conscious mind has yet to grasp. In these moments, time seems to fold in on itself. Past, present, and future align in a single point, revealing that your journey has always been more connected than you imagined. Sometimes, synchronicities arrive when we are lost, when we have strayed too far from the path of our soul's choosing. It is then that life sends subtle nudges, a conversation overheard, a dream that lingers upon waking, a symbol that appears repeatedly until we can no longer ignore it. These experiences seem to say, "Remember, you are not alone. The path is still here." Even in our deepest confusion, guidance exists, waiting for us to notice it. Perhaps you've experienced this yourself, times when, against all odds, everything seemed to align as though orchestrated by an intelligence larger than your own. You meet someone by chance, and that meeting alters the trajectory of your life. You decide to make a change, and suddenly resources and opportunities appear as though they had been waiting for you all along. At such moments, doubt falls silent, if only for a breath, and you sense that your life is being carried by a current you cannot see but can profoundly feel. And yet, to perceive synchronicity requires presence. It demands that we slow down enough to notice the subtle threads weaving through our experience. In a world consumed by noise and distraction, we often overlook the signs life offers us. We dismiss them as random, meaningless, unworthy of our attention. But when we cultivate awareness, we begin to see that existence is alive with symbols, patterns, and connections, a living dialogue between the seen and unseen. These signs do not impose meaning, they invite it. Synchronicities are not commands but whispers, offering direction while honoring your freedom to choose. The universe does not force your hand, it collaborates with your intention. When you align your actions with the quiet knowing of your heart, the external world responds, not because you control it, but because you are finally moving in harmony with it. Think of them as cosmic breadcrumbs scattered along the path of your becoming. Each one points you forward, inviting trust even when the destination remains hidden. When you follow them, you begin to realize that the journey is not linear but spiral. Life brings you back to themes, places, and people, each time from a deeper perspective, each time closer to the essence of who you are. This is why synchronicities feel so profound. They awaken us to the reality that we are part of something larger, something intelligent, something mysteriously ordered. The boundaries we imagine between ourselves and the world begin to dissolve. We see that our inner state is reflected in the outer world, that thought and matter are not as separate as they seem, and that we are, in ways we do not fully understand, co-creators in the unfolding of our lives. But this awareness carries responsibility. When you begin to notice the signs, you can no longer pretend you are powerless. You can no longer hide behind the story that life happens to you. You realize instead that life happens with you. The patterns, the alignments, the sudden openings, they are invitations, but they require your participation. A door may appear, but only you can walk through it. There will be times when synchronicities test your courage. They may lead you to choices that defy logic, paths that feel uncertain, and opportunities that stir both excitement and fear. This is the soul's way of asking if you are willing to trust something deeper than reason, if you are willing to follow the quiet pull of destiny even when the map is unclear. And yet, this trust is not blind. Synchronicities are not about abandoning discernment. They are about learning to listen with your whole being, mind, heart, and intuition, and noticing when life itself seems to lean toward you. They are reminders that you are not alone in your becoming, that something larger walks beside you, urging you toward the unfolding of your highest potential. Perhaps the greatest gift of synchronicity is the reminder that your life is meaningful. Even in moments of struggle, even when the path ahead feels hidden, the signs are there, whispering through chance meetings, persistent symbols, and improbable alignments. They speak to the part of you that remembers why you came here, even when your conscious mind has forgotten. When you begin to trust these moments, when you allow yourself to believe that life is guiding you rather than abandoning you, everything changes. Decisions become lighter, fear loosens its grip, and a sense of quiet belonging begins to grow. You realize that you are part of an intricate design, and while you may not see the full picture, you are exactly where you need to be. Synchronicities are the language of the soul, translated through the fabric of the world. They are not random accidents, but invitations to wake up to the deeper currents shaping your life. They are the universe's way of saying, you are on the path, keep going. And so, when the uncanny arrives, when life arranges itself in ways too precise to dismiss, pause. Breathe, pay attention. You are being spoken to, guided, and reminded that you are not lost. Every sign, every alignment, every mysterious crossing of paths is a breadcrumb leading you back to the truth of who you are, and to the purpose your soul chose long before you were born. You are not here by accident. Your longings, your struggles, your passions, your wounds, they are not random. They are the map your soul left you. If you've been searching for your purpose, stop looking outside yourself. The signs are already here, written in the language of your life. Listen to the restlessness, study the patterns, honor the wounds, answer the call, follow the synchronicities, because the truth is simple yet profound. Before you were born, your soul said yes to a purpose. Now, life is inviting you to remember it.